Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Christian Kabbalah channel. My name is Shimon Klinger. I'm happy you're here watching this. I apologize for the postponement yesterday. This video was supposed to have taken place last night, but we had a sick, feverish child, and I was attending to him. So we are going to get started. This is going to be a little bit different than the last couple previous ones. This is going to be more of a Zohar study where we are going to be going line by line, verse by verse through one of the Zohar sections, instead of providing you with like the energy of the week. So this is going to be a slight departure. Next week we should be back to the typical format. So let's get started, my friends. All right. So the topic for today is, what is the spiritual path? Now let's be clear. Let's see here. There we go. To a Christian, right, this should be an easy answer, and in some ways it is, right? And that answer is Jesus. Jesus is the spiritual path for Christians, right? But when we look deeper into what the church teaches that Jesus provides us, that Jesus gives us the entrance into heaven after we pass away from this world, right? But what happens to the intervening years, right? Let's say I became a Christian when I was in my early 20s, and God willing, will be living for a long time under those circumstances. Well, what happens to the intervening years? Okay, how are we supposed to find meaning in this life? Now, yes, Christianity does talk about and gives certain answers about what we're supposed to make of this life, but for the very most part, the emphasis in Christianity is what happens when we pass out of this world. Okay? So what is the spiritual life according to Kabbalah? It is finding purpose and meaning in this life. And that is what the main topic of the class is going to be today. And to answer this question, we are going to be looking at a specific section of the Zohar that talks about this exact thing, the spiritual path, and what is entailed in it, and what can Christians do in order to find greater meaning and purpose while we're here in this world. As always, everyone, if you would like a Zohar, please feel free to click on the QR code. This will be through the extent of this entire video. You can find it on the page. We're happy to send out Zohars to whoever would like one. We just sent them out. We sent them out about every month. So if you do click on this, be a little bit patient. I promise you we will get everyone a Zohar who would like one. All right, so let's begin, my friends. All right, so the verse through which we are going to be discussing comes from a section of the Zohar comes from the original Torah, but explained in the Zohar through the story of Joseph. Now, for those people who may be a little bit cloudy about the story of Joseph, let's do a quick review. All right, so if you remember correctly, Joseph was the favorite son of his father Jacob, and then he had a dream of his brothers. He had a dream of his brothers bowing down to him. And in all of his infinite wisdom, he tells his brothers this makes his brothers extremely jealous, and they sell him into slavery. Now, after this occurs, okay, Joseph finds himself in Egypt, and he is sold to Potiphar, right? Who just so happens to be the captain of Pharaoh's guard. And Potiphar's wife, who, according to the Midrash, is described as extremely beautiful, maybe the most beautiful woman who was alive at the time, she takes a liking to Joseph. And then in Genesis, it tells us this verse. And this is the verse through which the entire spiritual path is described. And the verse is, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife, Joseph's master's wife, cast her eyes upon Joseph. Okay? And this is the Old Testament verse through which we will be looking at to describe the spiritual path, according to the Zohar. Okay. So the Zohar section that we will be studying and reading tonight is Vayeshev, which is a section of Zohar, and specifically in the Zohar, chapter 21. Okay. And as we said, this describes the essence of the spiritual path. Okay. So especially during these types of studies, I also like to discuss New Testament scripture to bring it into the lives of many Christians. All right, so let's be clear, because Christian Kabbalah takes a different understanding than most than the traditional reading, specifically when it comes to the Gospel of John. Okay, so these are the assumptions that this channel makes about the Christian Kabbalah, about the Gospel of John. Number one, that the Gospel of John is a coded text, and that even though it makes perfect sense when we read it at the literal level, that encoded in the text is hidden wisdom. Okay? And then when we decode the gospel, the spiritual secrets that are encoded in the Gospel of John, they align perfectly to the fundamental concepts in Kabbalah, so much so that we deem the Gospel of John to be a Kabbalistic text, a hidden Kabbalistic text, right? Like it's hidden right in front of our eyes, because certainly we can read the Gospel of John from the historical context, and when we do this, we read about the historical Jesus. But when we read it from an inner perspective, it reveals Kabbalistic secrets. And that's what we're going to be doing here. The reason why I'm talking about this, okay, and you can see that this entire channel is dedicated to revealing the Kabbalistic secrets that are hidden in the Gospel of John. There are many videos already that we have discussed, at least the prologue of the Gospel of John. More are on their way. My goal is to go through the entire Gospel to reveal the secrets that are in it. Okay, the reason why I'm reviewing all of this is because let's look at John 1:19 through 23 from the eyes of an inner perspective, okay? Not how it's been read, not how the Gospel John has been read throughout history. Let's take a different perspective, an inner perspective. Okay, so we're introducing John the Baptist. This is John, as you can see up here, John 1:19 through 23. And this is the testimony of John, when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem that they might ask John, "Who are you?" And John confessed and did not deny, "I am not the Christ." And then they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" And John says, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answers, "No." Therefore they said to him, "Well, who are you? That we might give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about himself?" And this is a key verse. John said, "I am the voice crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as is said in Isaiah the prophet." So, when we take an inner perspective of John, let's clear away all of the confusion and let's make it simple. When looking at this verse from an inner perspective, John is simply the voice crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord. John is the inner voice within us that implores us to make our ways straight. Now we could get into, and certainly on this channel later when we get to these verses, we will go very in depth about why it's the voice in the wilderness. We're not going to do that now. We're going to keep it simple. John is the voice within us that tells us, reminds us, implores us to make our ways straight. So if we are not living a straight life, John, the voice of John, is embodied, the voice embodied by John is the one that tells us to keep, or to make our ways straight. So I have a question. Can you hear the voice of John crying within you? Has the voice of John, has that voice that is continually reminding you to make straight the way of the Lord? Have you heard that voice? Because if so, that is the voice that is beckoning you to take the spiritual path. Now, we were going to go to the Zohar here soon, and we'll explain what that means. But we can be sure that if you hear that voice is asking you to make your ways straight. And by doing that, as we're going to find out, that will be the way to walk the spiritual path. Okay, so to do this, we are going to jump to this particular chapter in the Zohar, chapter 21 in the volume of Vayeshev. And before we actually get to the Zohar reading and the Zohar study, as I've said before, if you have any questions about the Zohar for Christians and how it can help you greatly in your spiritual walk and your spiritual path, please take a look at this video. It was designed and made for Christians who are looking for a way, an easy way, or an easier way to continually draw closer to the God within you, to Jesus. All right, so let's begin here. So we're going to go here. We're going to go to volume number 21, and this is from Vayeshev. And you can see, as we said before, that we are going to be looking at, or this particular part of the Zohar is going to be reading from this particular verse, or explaining this particular verse. His master's wife cast her eyes, regarding Joseph. Okay, and we'll read the relevance. So the synopsis just is going to be an overview of what we're going to be reading. Let's just go to the relevance, because we want to be clear about what we can receive through the reading of the Zohar. The reading of this section strengthens our resistance to evil and to vain impulses, and steels our resolve to pursue positive change for the sake of our soul and for all of humankind. The collective intolerant, self-centered actions of man can become so great that they create a massive negativity that literally blocks the light from flowing into our world. Our connection to this passage helps dissolve this blockage and allow the penetration of the light. So before we begin, especially as we reading the Zohar, set an intention. Who can benefit? Who do you know that can benefit to becoming unblocked in certain areas of their life? What areas of your life would you like to unblock? Because when we send this light and keep others in mind and give this light to the world, we receive back those things that we wish for others. So take a moment. What is it that you want to unblock? Who is someone or a group of people that needs the light force of God in their lives? Keeping in mind the victims of the LA fires, and who else needs the light? And my sun is up. Hang on 1 second. Come here. Come. Thank you for your patience and understanding. My wife was walking the dog when my son woke up. So we will get back into the reading right now. So here we go. All right. So verse 20, or verse 210. Vaychircha hadavrim ha'ale tisha eshet adnav et ene al Yosef. Rabbi Chia patak ve'amar, Baruch Hashem malachav giborei koach oshe davro lishoa b'kol davro. Tacheze kama da'itztarik le'lavarnash la'istamra mechovoy ul mechach beorach mitat kana bagin dala yiste le hachu yetzer hara daichu mekatrega le kol yoma ve'yoma kama daitmar. All right. So, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. As we have discussed, this is the verse that gives us all of the insight. Rabbi Chia began the discussion with the verse, "Bless Hashem, you angels of his, you mighty in strength, who perform his bidding, hearkening to the voice of his word." So they're going to use that verse in order to explain the title verse. And then comes the explanation. "Come and behold, a man should be very careful to avoid sinning and should walk the path of righteousness, so not to be led astray by the evil inclination who daily brings accusations against him." All right, so let's discuss this verse, because this is the first one, and it is the verse, it's very important. So, according to this verse, that a man should be careful not to avoid sinning, should walk the path of righteousness, so not to be led astray by the evil inclination. Okay, this is the essence of the spiritual path. Okay, the path of righteousness is also known as the spiritual path. So let's talk about the path of righteousness. Okay, we all have a divine soul. This is according to Kabbalah. Every human being has a divine soul, and the root of our divine soul is in God. That does not mean that we are God, right? Because even though I would like to perform miracles, oftentimes that's a difficult thing. Oftentimes, so as you can see, we do not identify with our soul due to previous actions, both in this life and in previous lives. And also within us is the Satan. Okay, now I talked about the Satan last live stream, but let's review. Okay, the Satan, according to Kabbalah, is within us, but it is not us. It's also known as the evil inclination and the angel of death, among other things, according to the Zohar. And this is very important. The Creator created the Satan to give us an opportunity so that we might overcome it. In Hebrew, the Satan translates to the opponent or the adversary. So what does this mean? This means that in every action that we have, almost in every moment, the Satan is there prompting us to do the wrong thing. Why? Why would this reality be set up in such a way? So that we can become greater than it, as we're going to find out in this section. Okay, so let's continue on. So 2:11. Uvgin daichu me katrega le tadir be'e barnash laitat kafal ale ul istalka ale batar de takifu da've'e la machave gavar ale ul ishtatafa batar de guvura bagin dachad barnash atkef ale kaden yuchu bistar gavura va'itat tabak be va'ita kapfa uvgin de'echu yitzechara takif ba'e barnash dihe takif mine. Because the evil inclination constantly accuses him, meaning man, it behooves a man to overcome it and to stand firmly, so that the evil inclination cannot move him. Again, we're talking about the essence of the spiritual path. We're talking about finding meaning and purpose in your life. How can we do this? Most immediately is by standing firm against our evil inclination. As it says here, man must be mightier than the evil inclination and can be attached to the place of gevurah, which is might. For when man overpowers it, he cleaves to the side of gevurah and is strengthened, meaning that man becomes mightier. Now, according to Kabbalah, according to the Zohar, not only is there only one enemy in this entire world, which is my own evil inclination, right? A sign of strength, the only sign of truth strength. And again, this word here, gevurah, explains a lot of different things, but most immediately it refers to strength and might. So the way to become strong, or the only definition of strength or being strong, is overcoming our own negative inclination, our own dark side. Because the evil inclination is mighty, it behooves a man to be mightier. So again, we can be sure that regardless of how inwardly strong one might be, that the Satan, the negative inclination, the evil inclination within man, within you, within me, will always be a notch stronger. And that causes us, according to this verse, according to the Zohar, to become stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. The evil inclination acts as a way for us to become stronger, but only on one condition. And that condition is if we are actively going to war against it. So let's continue. I just want to see something here. Okay. Verse 212. Ve'elim b'nei nasha. Da'itat kafu ale ikron gabure koach. La'ish takcha zina im zine ve'yaleni nun malachav. Dekuchabrechu da'itian misitra de gevura kashia. La'itat kafa ale gebure koach ose devaro Baruch Hashem malachav ke Yosef ikre sadik ve'gibur untar berit kadisha da'it rashim bagave. Okay, so now we're talking about the people who are actively fighting against the negative inclination within. Those who overcome it are described as mighty in strength, as we've alluded to already, as they are with their own kind, for by overcoming the mighty one, they become as mighty as it. And in here, when they're referring to the mighty one, they're talking about the negative inclination within. These are the angels of the Holy One. They're talking about the people who are becoming as mighty as the negative inclination, right? Because when we overcome it, we become stronger. Those people that are doing that are the angels of the Holy One, blessed be He, namely the righteous, who come from the side of harsh gevurah to overcome the evil inclination. They are called mighty in strength who perform His bidding. Bless Hashem, you angels of His, such as Joseph, who was called righteous and mighty and preserved the holy covenant which was imprinted upon him. So again, let's remind ourselves about the story of Joseph, right? And where this is all coming from, right? Because Joseph was tempted, for lack of a better word, by the wife of Potiphar, who was considered the most beautiful woman alive. And this, in essence, is the fight that each and every one of us has. The internal battle that Joseph must have gone through in order to overcome this woman who was trying to seduce him is the same battle that each and every one of us fights or can fight every day of our lives. But we must understand that that extreme temptation will be with us in every aspect of our life, but it is there for our own inner benefits. And let's continue. I just want to check one thing before. Do I have anything to say here? I can't remember. Verse 2. Yes, it's this one. Okay, so, all right, so I have something to say for 2:13. All right, here we go. 2:13. Rabbi Elazar Amar, V'chi echer hadavrim hale ma'chi ha ukboa, atar da yitzchara makatreg, daichu darga echad hadavarim. Bagin de Yosef echav le dukta, le katrega de ava Yosef mesasel beshare, Va'atken garme v'kashet le kaden it yachev dukta leitzechara v'katrega de'amar uma ovoy de'chu mitabel ale ve'yosef mekashet garme umsasel b'share kaden itgare duba de'katreg le. Rabbi Elazar asks, what is the meaning of the verse, and it came to pass after these things? So again, he is referring to the title verse right here, where it says, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. So he's asking, why does it ask this to begin with? Rabbi Elazar asks, what is the meaning of the verse, and it came to pass after these things? He says, it has been explained that the place from which the evil inclination brings forth accusations is the grade called after these things. Joseph gave it an opening, meaning in the story, Joseph gave the evil inclination, he gave Potiphar's wife an opening for the accusations, for the entire scenario. He, in essence, brought upon the situation himself. So the evil inclination said that Joseph's father was mourning over him and that he, Joseph, adorned himself and curled his hair. Thus, it was aroused against him the bear, namely Potiphar's wife, and it assailed him. So let's talk briefly about what this means. Okay, so why did this scenario occur according to this section that we just read? Well, Joseph gave, according to the Zohar, the evil inclination an opening for accusations, meaning that this extreme temptation occurred because he, in essence, through his own actions. And it says that what were the actions that he did? That he adorned himself and curled his hair. Now, what does this mean for us, right? Simply that he was a little into himself, right? If he is adorning himself and curling his hair, these are actions that are not that are really focused only on himself. And that is what brought upon him the entire scenario. So let's continue. I don't think I have anything more here. Is that right? Oh, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so when we are into ourselves, we open ourselves to the accusations of the evil inclination. All right, it was simple. Here we go. Next verse. It's getting good here. All right. Now here's where it really matters. Okay, 2:14. Vayhi echer hadavrim ale tachaze bezimna de kuchabrechu ashkach be be'alma le medan yate va'ashkach hayavim be'alma ma kativ vayetzer et hashemayim velo yihe matar va'ha'adama la titen et yevula ukden ve'avadtem mehera decha bagin chovin divne nasha shemaya de ara it atzaru velo nahage nimusehon kitkayaot. Okay, are you ready? And it came to pass after these things. So they're still talking about this verse. Come and behold, when the Holy One, blessed be He, inspects the world to judge it and finds wicked people therein, then He puts up the heavens that there be no rain and that the land yield not its fruit, and then you perish quickly. All right, so what does this mean? Well, the Zohar is very clear. Because of the sins of men, the heavens and the earth stop performing their natural functions. That is a huge statement. So what does this mean? That according to this, natural disasters are not random. Not only are they not random, but that the world, without the collective human negativity, the world would function just perfectly. However, because of our combined negative activity, we bring upon ourselves natural disasters. Okay? It is through the actions of human beings, collectively, that the world is how it is. That natural disasters are happening at an alarming rate. This is due to the times that we live in and the collective human negativity. Let's continue. (2:15) Vatacheze vayinun dalad nataru lachai kaima dekucha garme parishu ben Israel le avuchon de vishmaya bagin diktiv ve'sartem ve'avatem elokim acharim ve'hishtchavitem lechem uktiv vayetzer et hashemayim velo yiyeh matar דחייכו כמן דסגיד ללכה אחרא דמשכר חי את קיימה קדישה. Come and behold, to those who do not keep the Holy Covenant, cause separation between the children of Israel and their Father in heaven. So what this is referring to is not necessarily a group of people, right? When it says those who do not keep the Holy Covenant right here. Instead, it is talking about the times in our life, the times, the parts within us where we do not keep the Holy Covenant, right? In each and every person, most of the people, and certainly everyone who is likely watching this video, there's parts of us where we do keep the quote-unquote Holy Covenant, and there are parts of us that don't. So it's speaking now about the times when we don't, our sinful nature, when we listen to the negativity within us. Okay? We cause separation between the children of Israel and the Father in heaven. What does this mean? This means that it prevents us from connecting to the light. For he who guards not the covenant is equal to a person who serves other Elohim, for he is false to the Holy Covenant. Verse 16. V'kad kaima kadisha da'it nater be'alma kitka yaot kaden kucha berichu hechev berchan le'ela va'it raka be'alma kapta la'alf geshem na nedavot tanif Elohim nachaletecha ונלה אתה כוננת גשם נדבות דה גשם דה ראותה כד יתרי קודשא בריחו בכנסת ישראל ולארכה לברכן כדן נחלתך ונלה אתה כוננת. When the Holy Covenant is well kept in the world, meaning when we are acting upon our desires of our soul, when we are listening and acting upon the words that we know to be true, the words of Jesus as a Christian, then the Holy One, blessed be He, pours blessings from above, which are showered over the entire world. as it is written, you, Elohim, did send a plentiful rain, whereby you did strengthen your inheritance when it languished. The plentiful rain is a rain of favor that pours when the Holy One, blessed be He, is favorable towards the congregation of Israel and desires to pour blessings upon it. Then you did strengthen your inheritance when it languished. Okay, so what is this referring to? Regardless of whether we are aware of it, our actions affect the entire world. Okay? So we'll get to this. From this particular section that we just read, what it's telling us is that not only when we act negatively are we causing the world to work in ways that it should not work. For example, causing natural disasters. But when we are overcoming those temptations in the same way that Joseph did, we are then causing the world to be filled with blessings. It's not just for ourselves, it's for the entire world. This is the power of the spiritual path. It is not just something that is for our benefit, it's for the world's benefit. 2:17. There's just two more verses. Nachlatecha. Inun Israel dainun achatstane dekucha berichu kafdalaf alef Yaakov hevel nachlato venila da Knesset Israel deichu nila be'arya achara deichu tzachya la mishte ukten ihi nila kadad hachu geshem diruta it yehev kaden ata kononta. Your inheritance is Israel, the inheritance of the Holy One, blessed be He, as it is written. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. The languishing is the congregation of Israel, which languishes in a strange land. It is thirsty for water, but cannot slake its thirst, and is thus weary. With favorable rain, you did then strengthen. Again, what this is referring to is that when we are able to overcome or strengthen ourselves against our dark nature within, against the evil inclination, then we cause favorable rain, blessings upon us, upon other areas of our life. And the last verse for today. Ve'al da shmaya de'ara dechol chelechon kuchu kaima al kiuma da diktiv im la viritiv yomam ve'layla chukat shemayim ba'aretz la shamti. Uvgin kach ba'ele is dahara bada veha ukmoa uvgin kach kativ vechi Yosef ife toar vife mare uvatre kativ vetisha eshet adonav et enea al Yosef. Thus, the heavens and the earth and all their armies are established upon the principles of the covenant, as it is written, if my covenant be not day and night, it were as if it had not been appointed the ordinance of heaven and earth. We should guard it, meaning we should guard our own decisions, as it has already been explained. It is therefore first written, and Joseph was of a beautiful form and fair to look upon. And then his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, which means that because he was not on his guard, but adorned himself by curling his hair, meaning that he was into himself, and he was good looking and well favored, his master's wife cast her eyes upon him. All right, so let's sum all this up, okay? So what is the spiritual path? How can we bring greater meaning, purpose, blessings upon our life? By actively overcoming and fighting our evil inclination. First and foremost, this, according to Kabbalah, is really what defines the spiritual path, the path of righteousness, doing everything in our favor to seek out and find negativity within and do what we can to overcome it. Avoid being into ourselves, right? This is part of it. Know that our actions, both positive and negative, affect the entire world. The Rav Ashlag, one of the greatest Kabbalists that have ever existed, who lived around the 1900s and who was the founder of the Kabbalah Center, likens our good deeds and positive actions as by putting grain by grain or seed by seed, sesame seeds on a scale. And before we know it, that scale will tip and the entire world will be changed for the better. In the terms of Christianity, the second coming will arrive. Mashiach will arrive. Messiah will be here. But it's through our own small, positive actions. When we overcome our Satan, yes, we will provide blessings in our life, but it also provides blessings to the entire world. And when we don't, right, if we give in to negativity, that has quantum consequences as well. It affects the entire world. So this concludes our Zohar study for today. Again, if you have any questions about any of this, email me. You can see it again. That my email is right here, christiankabbalah@gmail.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to hear. But what can you do? As we conclude, what is one thing that you can do this coming week where you can fight your Satan? And I do need to say this in conclusion. We were not meant to do this alone. We were not meant to fight alone. The Creator has given spiritual tools that makes this whole process a lot easier. It's the tools of Kabbalah. It's a tool of the Zohar. The more you read the Zohar, the more you find yourself studying and getting into the Zohar, the battle becomes easier. I can attest to that on many, many levels. My friends, it was such an amazing opportunity to share with this to you. I'm so grateful. I hope you have an amazing week. See you in the next live stream. See you in the next video. Having a great evening. I love you all.